I saw the death of dreams, the shattering of what they knew, realizations that it was all partial truths, reality misconstrued, mistaken for the myths subliminally inserted, force-fed a stew of misunderstanding and mass psychoses that screamed in the streets, on the mountains, on the cliff tops, on spotlit stages in people's backyards, in trains and riding the rocket of the soul, screaming at a world with not the ears to hear the cries of a lone mad woman, the cries of the children abused by poverty and fists, hunger, and hungry pedophiliac cocks, the cries of those socially unacceptable truths you're not supposed to mention. Speak no evil, so the monkey doesn't say. Hear no evil. A world that can't listen to the ugliness 'cause it hurts too much to see. No evil. Who wrap their pasts away in soundproof safe boxes, away from fear and repulsion. Away from the social mores judging, that ain't right, you ain't right, your place unseen. Hidden away, hushed up, decorated in new costumes, a masquerade, and leave the past locked tight, triple combinations, padlocked, pierced, staked, chained and imprisoned, out of sight, out of the world who cannot hear. Who regulate their reality with cocktails, chemical concoctions and a surfeit of shots, scared that is the only way they will find ecstasy. Finding men they have never met before and will never meet again, giving head jobs in nightclub toilets, doggy in deserted parks, table dancing girl on girl on girl, come down shaking awake, and is that ecstasy? Who tore down walls of consciousness's labyrinth, acidic solution eating away at the rubbles of rational, dangled the keys in the lightning storm, flying hard on a fishing line that they let snap, that has to snap, the only way, and fried in a permanent rewiring, sensual milky haze remnants of a once coherent being. Who chased their dreams, eating baked beans from dumpsters and sleeping on floors and getting down on their knees and down on all fours, as the big boys with the money tell you how it is. But who still chase those gossamer dreams, watching them fall through their fingers, watching them trampled, spat and pissed upon, and cried over the stains and tears, and mourned that which they could never touch, mourning broken wings, mortal chains, and decaying dreams. Who explained away the darkness with theories, hypotheses, pontificating from a platform, fears disguised as ambitions, that maybe faith is really all that is ever possible to hang on to. Who watched their creations annihilated, defamated, decimated psyches raining in shreds, destroying evidence, cut and paste jobs, and here's your life back, corrected and edited and reformatted to fit the expectations you should know. So why don't you obey? Never obeying, fingers slapped, arses caned, wooden spooned demands of submission, tears into scraped knees and bloodied lips, bruises visible and invisible, scars and tattoos, self-mutilations and demands of rape, children giving birth and mothers whoring, and everybody is addicted to something, seeking escape and seeking ecstasy. Only a delusion in the salty story, tasting of blood and tears and the sweat of a scared young girl who will never be safe, watching her violations and offences as the record grows, a label they never let you escape. Only a delusion. In a mass hysteria, popular propaganda, superliminal suggestion. And the warden's got your tongue, pierced in hot irons, forked by a flaming sword, and the old man weeps, knowing he's damned, while the young man laughs, knowing he's damned. And the mosh goes on, a circle pit of black and sweat, more sweat and regurgitations of the poisons consumed, imbibed and exhilarated, and she prostrates before her oppressor and lifts her skirt to the abominations and dances the devil's two-step, four-step, seven-step waltz. And he rode the descent into madness, and wailed to me halfway there, "Nobody told me it was an express, and what if I want to get off?" But he never presses the emergency stop, and he never calls the conductor. Another shot of junk through the veins, another pile of crystals on your tongue, a carcinogenic smoke swelling in your lungs. Politicians' taunts like schoolboys, and the media the kid who cries wolf and bitch, and your mum's a slut. And your mum really is a slut, dining on the scraps, leftovers given by those who know they're better, because that's the way it is in their heads. Heads of dollars and big screens and handbags and too many pairs of shoes, for you'll only ever have 10 toes, if you're lucky to keep them all. But you can't keep anything really, and money changes fists, garter belts and anuses, sniffed by hounds of no mercy, no pliancy. Probing, smelling, stinking of the polluted values twisted in postmodern sculpture that who really knows? That who cares for others without getting something from it for themselves? Selves wrapped in superficialities and sub-relativities, and she makes up words and makes up histories to suit the socially accepted, allowed, irreproachable, without actually lying, without laying bare all. The misdemeanors, the misintended, the mistaken cries that were never yours to be took, but taken they were. The unheard cries and unseen eyes that wail and weep their darkness. The fat and suited gorging on opulence, slums and starvation and social alienation not part of their story, left on the cutting room floor. Who ink their skin in Buddhist symbology, mantra and meditations, so busy practicing their self, too noisy to hear their true Buddha nature, just another story in the shallow waves as the deep left unrecognized, unknown, never explored, glimpsed in the distance so he thinks he knows its darkened waters. And others annihilate themselves physically, explosively, destroying infidels in the name of jihad for a God they too don't listen to, hearts twisted by hate and envy, the unjust, and they think they know but too busy thinking don't get what's in us all. And the Christians burning children, exorcising demons, rituals on TV, gospelizing, proletizing, in plays for more of the mighty dollar. Get down on your knees and confess your sins for the salvation of the mighty dollar, and you may go to heaven if you just got the cash. Who would divorce because they wouldn't take it up their ass from an unrelenting husband, wouldn't starve themselves thin or submit to nightly rape as he binds you yet again, slaps your cheeks and pleads with violence, "Scream, bitch, scream!" Who flash their gash for cash, spinning poles and spinning stories, the lies that it's going to get better, that stripping to strangers has some higher purpose than breakfasts in pancake kitchen, bags of powders and pills, more lace and leather, fishnets and frills. Whose doctor is from a video game and the clouds aligned with coins, and the blotter on your tongue turning bricks to Tetris prison, easier to smash through, blinkers trampled, lies and learning torn apart, the walls which you once saw through. Who painted their messages on the streets, on the electricity poles, on the buildings and banks, watching their words buffed as the ignorant laughed and the councils rage. Who pasted their protests on the hearts of past leaders, climbing the walls of bureaucracy, a surging sea of student bodies giving a visual illusion of power as the dean and professors are nowhere to be seen, comfortable with their tea and whiskey, as the pandemonium of shouts for justice go unheard, unseen. Who live in trees and don't come down, not for a government who says it's for people but is really for the money, not for the loggers with machinery, monstrous killing devices of destruction and greed, greed, greed. In greed they sell their souls for a piece of paper and pawn-worthy ring, for higher salary and bigger things, for that craved-for status that can be burst in a moment and will never be taken beyond the grave. Who answer to a blow-up doll, editor-in-chief, spreading their cynicism and intellectually transmitted disease, praying for an ideal world of peace and free speech, but never believing those prayers. Jaded pens writing they are more powerful than the sword, but never truly believing. who serenaded Thor and fucked for Dionysius, who shaved heads and donned saffron and chanted for Krishna but couldn't ask Jesus for forgiveness, murdering for Kali with neglect and wits inept, who fought off demons demented by poverty and alcohol and generations of racial hate, discrimination, riverside, in public buses, in darkened suburban streets, strangers' cars and cities' parks, who were beaten black and blue and gothic hues for their sexual preference, for the sway of their walk, the cut of their jeans, the product in their hair, the way their eye rests on desires considered perverse by the family firsting, ute mustering, church picnicking judgmentors, once schoolyard tormentors, now local office holders, homophobe, bohophobe, scared of all they can't fit in their boxes of hetero reality, who were beaten by police that swore in schoolrooms they are here to protect us, but didn't add so long as you belonged to one of the protected classes, so long as you got the cash or the right name, but if you fall below that poverty line, economic categorization, then you will be the one black, blue, gothic hues, broken boned and broken teethed, paddy fan slammed as those righteous police protect society from you, who set fire to ex-lover's penis, complaining when the deed was done that they didn't want to kill him, only burn his cock and maybe cause just a fraction of the pain that cock had caused her, who watch lovers die from mothers' ministrations, genetic limitations, sicknesses of society, kissing last breath from blue lips, hysterical of what there is no why for, as countless thousands die for, and it's all just the way it is, who sailed in leaky boats over dangerous seas for some possibility of freedom, and when they get to the promised land, locked behind barbed wire fences and one phone call a day, who sewed their mouths shut, mouths the world don't hear and don't want to see, but cry wolf and bitch and your mum's a slut when this reality is made clear, a statement in needlepoint lips. And they didn't teach us that in home economics, taught to provide your family with a balanced diet of mindless TV and material rewards, new shoes and sports trips, and you're a guitar hero in your own lounge room without even knowing the sound of C, who sees the sounds in psychedelia colours and freaks out at death and can't agree, shaking by a pond as the world swells, recedes and swirls, and she can't understand, can't compute, can't calculate, the price too high for her to pay, who saw the music turn the streets to waves, streaks of luminous colours, energies flowing like drunkard pissing on McDonnie's bin, and she is short a string and still she plays, it only stops when you stop to breathe, who yells about bedbugs, who dreams of privacy and a library, but follows his loved ones sleeping by rivers and rainforests, in pub rooms and backpackers, and he complains of it but follows, his love stronger than the longing for comfort, the longing for some security, who once again are homeless and hungry and begging disguised as busking, walking syringe-strewn streets, needles in playgrounds, and your feet are bare and you know it is inevitable catching some society-transmitted disease, who is the disease, who is their own psychosis, who is the consciousness that perceives all of this, all of things, who yells from balconies, throwing words down the city streets, graphed-up trains, over roofs of brothels, and screams, screams, screams!